morning YouTube, welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports, the North Football video, and today I'm going over my AFC playoff predictions and odds for each team to make the AFC playoffs. I'm going to be going over my record prediction for each team, as well as their floor and their ceiling, and what percent chance I think each team has of making the playoffs in the AFC. This video is a little different than the NFC one because, well, it's the same concept, but it's slightly different because there's fewer teams that have the potential to make the playoffs. But out of the teams that do have the potential to make the playoffs, is a much tighter race. If you look at the current AFC playoff picture, Kansas City is at 8-2, the Dolphins are at 7-3, the Titans are at 7-3, so are the Ravens and the Bills. 5 teams within one game. The Patriots, Bengals, and Jets are all 6-4. 8 teams within 2 games. Chargers are 5-5. Even they have a potential to get the 1 seed. Obviously they won't, but every team is in the race. The Colts are trailing a little bit as 4-6-1, and then you got 5 teams at 3-7 who aren't going to be making the playoffs, and then you have the Texans at 1-8-1. So yeah, AFC a lot more tight for the 7 seed than the NFC is, but the NFC had more teams fighting for it. First off, we start with Houston. Houston, I have a 0% chance of making the playoffs. I think their ceiling is 2-14-1. Not much else to be said there. Jacksonville, I have finishing at 4-13. I do think they could lose out. I have their ceiling at 6-11. Realistically, they're not making the playoffs. Their offense has been inconsistent, and even the games that it has been doing well, the defense fails them. Denver seems to disappoint me every single week. If they scored 18 points exactly every week this season, they'd be 8-1. That just tells you how bad their offense is. Prediction, I have them going 5-12. I really can't see them going 6-11 or 7-10, but I do think the 7-10 is probably their ceiling because they do have some potential in the team, but it is a tough schedule to finish off the season, and I have their floor at 4-13. Raiders, I have the Raiders finishing 5-12. I have their ceiling also same as the Broncos at 7-10, floor 4-13. The reason why they have tiebreakers, the reason why they have 2% instead of 1% is because they have tiebreakers beating the Broncos twice. They did beat them twice in the regular season, both of their matchups. Those contributed to 2 of the Raiders' 3 total wins. So I guess since the Raiders aren't playing the Broncos the rest of the year, they'll have 1 or 2 more. But yeah, I don't think the Raiders have enough time to turn around their season. At the very least, they could finish 10-7, but that would be if Derek Carr played out of his mind every single game for the rest of the year and the defense found a way to be competent. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that the Steelers have the most potential out of the 3-7 teams in the AFC, simply because TJ Watt has transformed the Steelers. They've played so much better when he's on the field than when he's off the field. Even the offense was playing better against the Bengals last week. Obviously, that's not because of TJ Watt, but his energy and the improvements that he's been able to bring to the defense might have something to do with that. I think that the Steelers are a better team with him, and I think that they do have a ceiling of around 8-9. That obviously wouldn't be good enough to make the playoffs, but I think that the Steelers could have finished off the season with a respectable end to the year, even if they don't make the playoffs. And at 5%, we have the Cleveland Browns finishing off the 3-7 teams. I have them predicted to go 6-11, so finishing off the season 3-4 in the rest of their games. Deshaun Watson is not going to be back this week, so I have them losing this week, but he'll be back the week after. So I have them 3-3 with Deshaun Watson, as their schedule is fairly tough once he comes back, and then I have them losing this week without him. Ceiling of 8-9, I do believe that they could have some legitimate success with Watson. I don't expect them to be going 9-8. I think that it is possible. That's why I have them at 5%, because I think that the Deshaun Watson could be anywhere from amazing to horrendously bad. And there's not really an in-between. I'm not sure which one he's going to be. So yeah, and I have their floor at 5-12, which is the highest floor of the 3-7 teams. Moving on from the 3-7 teams, we have the Indianapolis Colts, who are 4-6-1. And I think that the 10% is undervaluing how good this team is. I think that Matt Ryan has played not very well, but he's played well enough with the Colts that they could be a playoff contender. His injury, Sam Ehlinger being the quarterback for a couple of weeks, and having that inconsistency in the middle of the season has dropped them a couple of games. I think they could potentially have been 6-4-1 or 5-4-1 so far this season, but 5-5-1, 6-4-1 or 5-5-1. But because of the inconsistency in the middle of the year, because Sam Ehlinger became the quarterback, the Colts suffered, and now their record is 4-6-1, and it's going to be very hard to climb out of that hole. They're a game and a quarter behind the Chargers, almost 2 full games behind the Chargers, because they have an extra 1 less win, 1 more loss, and they have that half a game, that tie. And so I think that tie is going to be the killer. I do have their ceiling at 9-7-1, which I think is a realistic ceiling. I do think that 8-8-1 is also realistic, but I think that tie is really going to kill them, because if they didn't have the tie, they could potentially be 10-7 or 9-8. But the tie really kills them because they need to be 9-7-1, even have a chance of making the playoffs. I do have them at 10% because I think that Matt Ryan has the ability to win games, especially with this team. And I think it could be higher, but I really can't put them a lot higher considering they're almost 2 full games below 500 still. Now we move on to the tightest playoff race, in my opinion, in recent memory. Last year was extremely tight around this time of the season, and then the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, everything separated. Obviously, everyone was still within 3 or 4 games by the end of the year, but there was some major separation that occurred towards the end of last season. And a lot of that had to do with Patriots being the frauds, going from 9-4 to 10-7. That also happened with the Chargers going from, I think, 5-2 to 9-8. We saw the Raiders go from 3 and whatever to 9-8. In some cases it got tighter, in some cases it got wider, but it definitely got more definitive. This year there are 4 teams who I think are fighting for the 6th and the 7th seed in the AFC, and I'm pretty sure the top 5 seeds are almost guaranteed to be locked up at this point. The Chargers have it 49%. They're currently 5-5. They don't have the hardest schedule in the league left. I'd say that out of the 4 teams coming next, they have the 2nd easiest schedule after the Jets. Could potentially be the easiest, but there's a close argument there. I have them predicted to finish 9-8, winning 4 of their next 7 games. A ceiling of 11-6. I do think that they could potentially finish 11-6, winning 6 of their last 7 games because of how easy their schedule is. But I really think that that's a little unrealistic considering they're 5-5 and have had an inconsistent season, and I have their floor at 8-9. The Chargers have had some injury issues. If I remember correctly, Mike Williams got injured again last week. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have been in and out of the lineup, and they've had a lot of injury problems on offense. And their defense, obviously missing J.C. Jackson for most of the season, even though he didn't play well in the games that he did play. And the defense overall has been underwhelming for how it was expected to play this year. I have the Chargers at 49%, but that's not much different than the teams that are right above them. I have the Bengals at 50%. Also with a floor of 8-9, a ceiling of 11-6, and a prediction of 9-8. The reason why the Bengals have 1 extra percentage point over the Chargers is because the Bengals are 6-4 and the Chargers are 5-5. The Chargers have the easiest schedule out of the 4 teams fighting for the 6 and the 7 seeds. The Bengals have the hardest schedule of the 4 teams fighting for the 6 and the 7 seeds. That's the sole reason why they are above the Chargers and below the other 2 teams. Chargers are 5-5, so I have to have them lowest just because they need to catch up that extra game. There's plenty of time to do it. It's only 1 game, but it's not like a game and a half like the Giants and Washington in the NFC. But it's still a full game. So that 1 percentage, even though the Chargers have a much easier schedule, I do have the same floor, ceiling, and prediction for the Bengals at 9-8, 11-6 ceiling, and an 8-9 floor. Moving on, we have the New England Patriots. They are slightly above the Bengals because the Bengals' schedule is undoubtedly the hardest of these 4 teams. The Bengals are going to win this week, and then after this week, they have 6 playoff teams to finish off the year. I think that basically how I think it's going to go down, right? You have the Bengals and the Patriots playing each other on Christmas Eve. no matter what happens, I think the Patriots are going to win one of the 3 games between the Vikings, the Bills, and the Dolphins. Between the Vikings, the Bills, and the Bills. If they're lucky, they can finish 2-2 between Vikings, Bills, and Dolphins. And I think that no matter what, the schedule is going to work out where whoever wins on Christmas Eve between the Patriots and the Bengals will be getting the 6th seed. I think that whoever wins between the Patriots and Bengals on Christmas Eve will finish 10-7 or 11-6, and they'll be getting that 6th seed. Whoever loses that game, I think, will finish 9-8 or 8-9, and maybe not 8-9, but they'll finish 9-8, and they'll lose on tiebreakers for the 7th seed. I think that the 7th seed is guaranteed to be either the Chargers or the Jets. The Jets are going to get it if they continue to play defensively how they've played the rest of the season. The Chargers will get it if the Jets crash and burn and finish 8-9 or 7-10. I don't expect that to happen, but how they played offensively in the Patriots game, there is potential for that. So if the Jets crash and burn, then the Chargers will get the 7th seed. If the Jets don't crash and burn, they'll get it. And then I believe that the 6th seed will be decided on Christmas Eve between the Patriots and Bengals, because that will give head-to-head tiebreakers over the winner. And if they both finish 10-7, if they both finish 9-8, if they both finish 11-6, the tiebreaker head-to-head is going to win it. So Christmas Eve is the game to decide the AFC 6th seed, in my opinion. And then whoever loses that game, I think, will be out. I have the Jets at 52% simply because I think that they have the easiest schedule of the 6 and 4 teams, and they're a game ahead of the Chargers. I have them finishing 10-7 also, which is higher than all three of the other teams. I have the same floor and ceiling for all 4 of these teams, but I have the Jets' record prediction at 10-7 because of the combination of currently being 6 and 4 and the schedule they have left. Obviously, they could crash and burn as well, and that's why their floor is 8 and 9. Their floor could be 7 and 10 because I won't put it past the Jets to crash and burn entirely and finish 1 and 6 in their last 7 games. I really realistically don't think that's going to happen, but it could. So Jets are at 52%. Up from 52%, we have Buffalo at 90%. The Buffalo Bills I have at a 90% chance of making the playoffs at the 5 seed. I have their floor at 10-7, their ceiling at 13-4, and their record prediction at 12-5. Very similar to a lot of the other teams above them. Currently, I have them below the Dolphins because they lost to them earlier on the season. They also have a lot of divisional losses already. They're 0-2. They haven't won a game in the division yet. I do expect them to beat the Patriots either 1 or 2 times, which will increase their divisional record, but Miami's in the driver's seat right now. And that's why they have the extra 2%. Same floor, same ceiling, same record prediction. But they have the win. They have the tiebreaker, and I believe that they have the most dominant offense in football. Tua also is 7-0 this season. It's 7-1 if you count the Bengals game, but he played less than half of the game, so I don't count that. I think that Tua's offense is so efficient that the Dolphins' offense is going to be pretty unstoppable for the rest of the year. I think that 13-4 is not unreasonable for this team. I think that the Dolphins could very well get the 1 seed. I think that 12-5 is probably more realistic, finishing 5-2 for the rest of the year, but Tua has been on a tear recently, even from the end of last season when they started 1-7 and finished, I believe, 8-9. So yeah, Tua is on a insane streak, especially with his new weapons, and I think that the Dolphins are most likely going to win the AFC East, the toughest division in football. I have the Baltimore Ravens coming in at 95%. Some slight increases from the Dolphins. I have their ceiling at 14-3 and their prediction at 13-4. Yes, I do have their ceiling at 14-3 with all those divisional games left. The Ravens have shown that they can beat any opponent at any time, and although they do have a lot of divisional games left, I think that their schedule is one of the easiest in the league going forward. I have their prediction at 13-4. I think they'll finish the season 6-1, but I do think that 14-3 is possible for this team. Tennessee Titans, I have their ceiling also at 13-4, as they're currently 7-3. I have their record prediction at 12-5. Actually, I have their ceiling lower than the Ravens and their prediction lower than the Ravens. Their schedule is slightly harder. They also haven't proven themselves against strong teams as well as the Ravens have. If they beat the Bengals this week, then that will definitely increase their chances of getting to that 13-4. But I really don't know if they're going to. I think the 12-5 is probably more realistic. That's how they finished last year after starting 7-3. Derrick Henry is here this year, so that does help them. But I think that with the schedule they have left, I think, and they're also almost guaranteed to win their division. That's why they're at 99.9. And then Kansas City's also at 99.9. At this point, they're almost guaranteed to win their division. They're 3 games ahead of the Chargers with indefinite tiebreakers. I mean, unless they crash and burn, I don't even know if the Chargers are gonna be able to get to 8 and 9, depending on how bad they end up playing the rest of the season. The Chiefs could clinch the division in the next week or two if they get up to 10-2. Prediction I have at 14-3, ceiling at 15-2, and a floor of 12-5. AFC playoff picture for 2022. I have Kansas City finishing 14-3, the Ravens finishing 13-4. I have the Titans finishing 12-5, along with the Dolphins and the Bills. I have the Jets at 10-7. I have the Patriots at 9-8, the Bengals at 9-8, and the Chargers at 9-8. I do have the Patriots in the 7th seed because I do believe that we will win on Christmas Eve. I think that we'll beat the Raiders. I think that we'll beat the Cardinals, and I think that we'll win one of the 4 games between Miami, Buffalo, and the Vikings. They'll put us at 9-8. I think the Bengals' schedule is so difficult that they'll also finish 9-8, and that win on Christmas Eve is going to be the deciding factor. Colts I have finishing 7-9-1. I have the Browns finishing at 6-11. A few 5-12 teams between the Steelers, Raiders, and Broncos. Jaguars at 4-13, and the Texans at 1-15-1. I don't have the Texans winning another game the rest of the year. They got lucky early on in the season with their divisional matchups to give them that win and a half against the Colts and the Jaguars. I just don't see it happening. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you like these types of videos. I've done them before. They've done well, but they haven't done extremely well. So if you guys enjoy this type of content, let me know. I love doing them, and glad I can get some videos up this week because I actually have like a break from life. I'm also planning to get a lot of videos out in December, a lot of playoff content. I'm going to try and do some more things other than just simply playoff predictions. I want to try and do some more why this team will make the Super Bowl type things. So let me know if there's anything like that you guys want to see on the channel. So thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Huge shout out to Quinn Lacey for supporting the channel with a channel membership.